In this video, I'll tell you about how to focus your hobby fire to get your models playing on the table faster. There are some folks out there in this wargaming hobby who just want to build and paint models. They're either into like maybe display painting, right? Maybe for competition, for entering a painting competition, or maybe they're doing it just for their own enjoyment, right? Or maybe they just love to collect finished models that they've done, not like display pieces and stuff like that, but gaming models and line them all up and I don't know, whatever. But that's their goal, right? Either way, and it's okay. Then there's folks who want to be playing pretty much constantly, maybe even competitively, like at big tournaments and things like that, and they rarely paint much at all. Painting is very frequently a hurdle to them, and they just do it so that they can play in tournaments, which usually require painted models, and that's also fine as well. And then there's the rest of us. Perhaps you're like me, and you enjoy building and painting miniatures in terrain. Like, it's a lot of fun, right? But you do it to get stuff onto the tabletop and play games, not for display. And, you also wish you were playing more games than you currently are as well, right? Sometimes you can't play more games because of life and grown-up things, like work and chores and family and whatever. But sometimes you can't play more games because you don't have the miniatures that you want to play with painted yet, right? Like, can you play games with unpainted miniatures? Technically, yes. Yes, you can, for sure. But I know I don't like it. It's true. I just don't like to play with unpainted miniatures. I'd almost rather not play than play with unpainted miniatures, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's about immersion and enjoying the visual spectacle on the tabletop and like all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but that's how I live mine. Therefore, I sometimes end up missing out on some gaming sessions because I don't have that force or warband or whatever that I want to use in the gaming session painted and ready to go. Maybe this has happened to you as well. And it can be a blow to your hobby motivation. And low motivation can keep us from completing our hobby goals, like, finishing that cool warband or new terrain project or whatever. Just like grown-up issues can, like work and chores and all that stuff. Motivation can be a big problem, and I've made plenty of motivation videos in the past on this channel. One of my big suggestions has always been to change projects when you feel your motivation flagging. You know what I mean? Like, are you running out of steam painting this warband? Then maybe switch over to this terrain project and paint that. Or maybe like switch to build mold and start a whole new kit. And I believe that switching things up does work pretty well when motivation is giving you problems. Like, any progress is good. However, if your number of games played is linked to your perceived hobby progress, or maybe you just want to be playing more games, that's fine too, then in many cases your motivation is also affected by not playing the games that you wish you were. Yes. In that situation, you're better off not jumping around from project to project and switching things up. It's better to focus your fire. I've never been strategically minded in games. Let's just say that and leave it as it is. I'm mainly there to have fun, and winning isn't directly linked to fun for me. Now, that said, I was given a good piece of kind of strategy advice back in the days when I played Star Wars X-Wing. Rest in peace. During a game, a friend noticed that I was just kind of shooting willy-nilly at any targets of opportunity that were available to me on any given turn. I would shoot at whichever ships were near and spread my fire amongst my opponent's forces. I was told this wasn't a good idea. I should be focusing my fire. In most war games, a unit that is just basically a single model, like a vehicle or maybe a big monster or something like that, is just as effective and threatening in the game when it's damaged as it is, when it was fresh and undamaged at the beginning of the game. There are some games that are the exception to that, whereas, like as you take damage, then you move slower or you shoot less or whatever the deal is. But for the most part, it's not the case. And in the case of X-Wing at the time, a damaged ship on your opponent's side could be pretty much just as much of a threat to your force as it was in turn 1 when the game started. The advice that I was given was that the smart move was to focus my fire and have as many of my ships shoot at just one of the enemy's ships until that ship was destroyed. Then my opponent had fewer ships to attack me with, and this would reduce their combat effectiveness. Now, you might be thinking, no duh, Uncle Adam. But again, like I said, I mostly play games to have fun, and I've never been what you'd call a skilled strategist. I was reminded of all of this strategical knowledge during a conversation with chat on Twitch, like last week or so. We were talking about getting wargaming projects done for an upcoming convention and just, focusing on that one project to make sure that you hit that deadline for the convention. It made me think of the sage-old advice, that I got from my pal about my past X-Wing days, and it sparked this idea about working on just one project, not just for hitting a convention deadline, but for getting forces ready to play in general. Of course, the easy answer is to just play the older stuff that you've already painted and completed. Then you can be like playing games to scratch that particular game playing itch. And you should totally be doing that as well, of course. But if you're like me and you also want to get new models on the table and be able to play games with them, that's also part of your motivational progress, right? Then it's important to not jump around from project to project, like, when you're trying to keep motivated, and focus your fire, as it were, on getting that warband or whatever finished so you can play games with it as soon as possible. Now, because I do this kind of semi-professionally, I do have a harder time following this advice myself. Currently, I'm working on the Skaven Grey Seer model from the new Skaventide, Age of Sigmar box, and doing it pretty much only on Twitch. And I also had to finish a bunch of the new clan rats for last week's tutorial here on YouTube that dozens of you watched, so if you happen to miss it, ciao. And I've also got some terrain projects in progress for more future videos as well. But again, more games played isn't my only goal, so that's okay for me, I guess. But if you're the type of hobbyist who loves to, hop around from project to project, whether it's to, help with your motivational issues, or maybe just because you love to go wherever the mood takes you, you've probably realized that it takes a long time to get any single thing done, right? We all only have so much time in any given day. So if you want to get something finished so that it can be on the table, like getting a warband completed so that you can actually play a game with it, and then scratch that itch, then it's going to be better to keep your hobby fire focused. Not counting my professional projects, my new focus that I will work on in all of my personal time until it's finished, guaranteed, is this Manticore Boars group from Blackout. I've talked about Blackout here on the channel before. It's a sci-fi skirmish game that I'm pretty into, right? I primed and I kind of zenithalled them with like uniform gray air paint from the Army Painter over like black primer last night or the night before, I forget. And hopefully I'll be able to put a big dent in them this weekend. After they're done, then I'll probably focus my hobby fire on either the Harlow First Reaction Force or maybe the UN Raid Force Alpha, both of those also for Blackout. The benefit to getting 2 forces done for that game is that then I will then be able to teach Blackout as well because I'll have 2 forces. So although hopping from hobby project to hobby project can help with your general hobby motivation in many situations, you'll find that it does take a long time to actually get any of those projects done. Progress is still good, but so is finishing a project, especially if you want to bring it to the table and play some games. So focus your hobby fire and finish it faster if you really want to be playing with your new models. Do you kind of hop around more, from project to project, or do you focus on like one project at a time in your hobby? Let us know down in the comments below. If you liked this video, if you hit the like button down there below, again, that's totally free. You can do that. It'll help the channel, it'll help the video, and I will personally appreciate it. If you'd like to see more videos like this every single Friday, then also while you're down there, hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.